Hi guys, so this is Jack at the Paranormal Intelligence Agency. Thanks for being with me again this week. This week I want to revisit the topic of the last video I made, the invisible predator stalking the woods, and show a very compelling link between these creatures and the so-called missing 411 cases that a lot of people are becoming very aware of through the works of an investigator named David Paulides, who was an ex-police officer turned detective once he discovered that so many of these missing people were taking place in the national park system, and many of them under very, very suspicious circumstances. In his movie Missing 411 The Hunted, we find a compelling eyewitness account to the creatures that I featured in the last video I released, called Predator in the Woods, Invisible Predator in the Woods. And in this video I came across some more information that is extremely pertinent to the subject, and so I'm going to present that here. What you're seeing now is a picture of David Paulides being interviewed by George Knapp recently. In that interview, he reiterates the story of a woman who was bow hunting in the forest, and she claims to have seen one of these predator-like entities. The interesting thing about this eyewitness is that she is both high profile and highly credible. She is the wife of Dr. Bruce Mcabee, a well-known and well-respected optical physicist, and an expert who has given his expertise on a number of UFO documentaries. In her testimony, she claims that one day while she was out bow hunting, and yes, she's a bow hunter, she came across something that fits the exact profile of what we are now seeing video footage of coming in from around the world. Because of the sheer number of unsolved missing person cases, which all seem to fit the same profile of disappearing near boulder fields, near water, near berry patches, and there's a host of other criteria by which all of these cases seem to fit a very, very strange pattern. Many people believe that there is a predator at work in these cases, an unknown, unseen predator that is quietly taking these people out of the national park system or preying upon them. And in this video I'm going to examine a couple of different possibilities as it relates to the idea that these cases are in fact cases of predation. Right away, it was discovered that most of the missing person cases fitting the 411 profile all seem to coincide in areas where there are vast cave systems. In fact, they match almost to a T. And when we look at the creature known as Sasquatch, and we overlay Sasquatch sightings over the cave system and the missing 411 victim map, we find an extremely compelling correlation. And we have to ask ourselves, what are the odds that all three of those would line up so perfectly? Because when you put them on top of each other, what it produces is the heat map that you're seeing at the top of the screen. That heat map is a combination of Bigfoot sightings, missing 411 cases, and America's cave system. But since we have a new suspect in these cases, and it looks very, very similar to the predator seen in the Predator series of movies, a creature that can cloak itself, make itself completely translucent, and the only telltale that it is there is just a slight perturbance in the light reflection. This is the video that I presented in my last video, titled Invisible Predator in the Woods, and you can find it on my channel. This is combined with the footage of two other researchers who seem to have captured the same entities in the woods. What these are is anyone's guess, but they are scary beyond belief. The woman you're seeing here is a woman named Jan Mcabee. She is an eyewitness to one of these creatures. And the interesting thing about Jan Mcabee is that she is both a high-profile and highly credible witness. She is the wife of Dr. John Mcabee, a man who is renowned for his abilities as an optical physicist, and has lent his credibility and expertise on a number of UFO documentaries. Jan claims that one day while she was out bow hunting, she came across one of these invisible predator entities. It truly horrified her, and she described it just like the other eyewitnesses, a translucent-like being that was up in the tree watching her as she was bow hunting. This isn't the only new evidence. Recently, in the last few days, yet more footage has come out of a researcher who has filmed one of these entities in the woods. And so now we are beginning to see a compiling of evidence coming in from various locations. And this location was right on the Colorado-New Mexico border. If you are unfamiliar with all of the missing cases, all of the missing person cases in the national park system, then I would highly encourage you to educate yourself on this subject. Something very, very strange is occurring. And next, what I want to show is some of the faces of some of these victims. You can get these off of the nationalparksystem.gov website. And I want you to look at some of these faces. The list goes on and on and on, and the best estimates that we can have number into about 1,600 people. They all vanished without a trace, all under the same mysterious circumstances. And now we must have an answer. So that's it for today's analysis, the update for the invisible predator that I will continue to analyze as more information comes in. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the paranormal intelligence update. A Russian astronaut on the ISS claims to have filmed some UFOs from the International Space Station. That footage is being analyzed, but he seems pretty credible. You can go to the website paranormalintelligenceagency.com, and you'll have links to these stories. This is an interesting story, and it may signal the idea that the age of astronauts having to clam up on UFO interaction is probably coming to an end, along with the ATIP program and its disclosure of the UFO phenomenon. Here is a picture that he got, and it's pretty interesting. Going on now, we've got new cattle mutilations, and they're occurring in Argentina. They are exhibiting the same exact wounds that are textbook that we've seen since the early 60s and have documented. This, as I've explained on a number of shows, I believe is a testing of the food supply worldwide by a type 3 civilization that has an extreme interest in this planet. And there again, you can see the textbook wounds. The animals always have the highest cell reproduction rate organs taken from the animal, as well as them being exsanguinated of all of their blood. Next up, we have a very interesting article put out by Blue Blurry Lines. It traces the Pentagon UFO money trail from Skinwalker Ranch to Bigelow studies. And they did a very, very comprehensive, very detailed report tracing all of those interactions, showing that Bob Bigelow did, in fact, receive most of the black budget funding and a lot of the material recovered from some of the UFO craft that we now know for certain exist. In the blackvault.com, we've got an interesting article about evidence of the U.S. Navy involvement in the program, having some of the evidence destroyed, and that is interesting. And there's speculation as to what that evidence is, or why it was destroyed, but you can examine that story. And in a very interesting and yet another animal mutilation story going on, and this is out of France, there have been approximately 30 horses who have been mutilated in the exact same fashion as all of the other horse and cattle mutilation cases that have occurred around the world. You can see here on this headline that the authorities are claiming it could be a satanic cult. That is a cliche when it comes to animal mutilation cases. It's an easy out, and most of them consider that before they realize this has been going on since the early 1960s. So there is the update. Make sure you log on to the paranormal-intelligence-agency.com website. What we have on there are exclusive videos and reports. All you have to do is go to our publish a research page. You get a membership for $19.95, and it lasts for a full entire year. And the nice thing about that is we have brand new subscriber reports and exclusive videos on there just for subscribers. It helps support our operations in the field, as we also do field investigations. But this is Jack Carey, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for being with me.